Do you want to walk up there? Just make sure that mic is at a good level. Is that good for you? You want to bring it up some? I think it's good.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, and whoa, thank you for coming tonight. My name is Matthew Park, and I am the Democratic nominee for Knox County Commission in South Knoxville. Thank you all for being here. Tonight, I hope you all notice that the weather outside is changing. We're getting warmer, and the weather in DC is about to change, because I'm here to introduce to you our candidate that we will be sending to DC at the end of this year as our next congresswoman. When we think about who we need to send to DC, that's someone that grew up here in East Tennessee. That's someone that we know will stay here and listen to our thoughts and our beliefs and our needs. That's someone we know that will fight for women and fight for veterans and fight for those in need. We know that we need to send someone to DC that will show up with a mind that is educated and a mind that is willing to listen and learn and bring a scientific and thoughtful and knowledgeable approach to politics for once. I'm happy to say that we have that candidate, and she's here with us tonight. And without me talking anymore, Miss Jane George, come on up, our next congresswoman.
Thank you, Matthew. A strong nation is one that is well fed, well educated, well housed and clothed, and has access to affordable health care. It's one in which all of its citizens maintain the ability to practice their faith without fear of retaliation or retribution. They have the right to define who is their family and if and when they bring a child into their lives. It is a country that believes that their neighbor and their colleagues, their fellow citizens, should have the freedom to go to a doctor if they're sick or injured or dying. without having the fear that they will lose everything that they have. It is one that salvages hope in a time of darkness for a brighter future. Better than today, a time when we live without the fear of gun violence or an unbalanced gender and racial time, especially with our faith policies. A time when we no longer have tolerance for actions that degrade our democracy. It's a nation that thrives on truth. Verifiable truth, not speculation. It's the playbooks of the authoritarians who use manipulation through fear and othering and the dissemination of false narratives to gain power and to create division through distrust in its citizens. We also must recognize that our nation was built on the backs of immigrants. And the enslaved people. And we need to begin to honor their descendants, not persecute them. We must find a way back to acceptance, sometimes with disagreement, but look to common ground, or we will lose this democracy that we value and hold so dear to our hearts. Back in 1875, on the eve of the Republican caucus in Ohio, Ulysses S. Grant's speech said what he believed we needed in our country to make a more perfect union. He said three things. He said equal rights for all. He said public education for all. And he said a complete separation of church and state. Right now, the House is in great dysfunction. Tim Burchett and his MAGA cronies are arguing about issues that aren't even in alignment with what most Americans are concerned about. Many of them are based on the false construct that we are a nation built on Christian nationalism. And although we hope to carry and govern with many of those moral constraints, including compassion, concern for our neighbors, and a love of our country, we must not be guided by a singular religion. I was born and raised right here in Knoxville. I was born in St. Mary's Hospital. That's the same one my mother was born in. Oh, there's more. Yeah. And that my son was born in. After I was born, my parents brought me home to Magnolia Boulevard on the east side. And then when my mother got pregnant with my brother, we moved to Rocky Hill. I now live within 2 miles of the place that I came home from the hospital. And my practice in functional medicine is less than 2 miles away from the home that we moved to in Rocky Hill. When I first started school, I was at a school called Thaxton. It's a little school on the campus, UT. Y'all guys know that school? Yeah, go. We didn't really have a mascot, so I can't say go. But I was an athlete in those days even. I could outrun all the boys. That's the truth. And here's what's interesting about my time there. So those were very developmental years, right? When we're little kids, we're putting together the pieces of how we perceive the world that we live in. And I was in a school that was on a campus. And so I watched the Vietnam protests through chain link fences. I watched the love-ins. And I realized how important it was for us to be able to stand up as Americans if we disagreed with decisions that were made by our government. To me, that was normal. That was part of my programming. Yes. And so if we skip from there to Bearden Junior High, which wasn't really that many years, if you're jumping from 5th grade to 7th, that's when I started my political career. I was going to change the world from 7th grade forward. And every year in junior high and high school at Bearden, I was either the president of my class or the president of the student body executive council. So I was always very active. The only year I lost was the first. I lost to a boy. And at that time in my life, I could not understand how I could lose to a boy. It just didn't make any sense. But after that, starting with 8th grade and forward, I was able to maintain positions. And one of the really cool things that happened was for my senior year, I was president of executive council and second vice for student council. And I have always been about representation. There's some kind of sense of fairness about that to me. And so every year, our student council body was comprised of people from homeroom representatives, right? Everybody remember that? And you had the same one from 7th grade on. Well, I decided that we should have actual representation. So I went before the administration in the year between my junior and senior year, and I said, I want to create something called the Senate. And if you want to be a representative, you just have to get 30 signatures, just like we do today. And you take those 30 signatures and you'll be assigned a homeroom teacher, and you'll still once a month with your constituents, you'll go to your homeroom and you'll talk about the things that matter. And I can tell you that that was a significant change in the climate of our school. We had dances in different places than we had before. We had a much stronger awareness of the importance of diversity and how that informed us and our experiences. And I have to say that to this day, it still motivates me to stay engaged, because at my heart and core, representation is what matters. I'm a 6th generation Tennessean. Here I have roots deep in the 2nd district. My mother's family's from Strawberry Plains. We have some folks here from Strawberry Plains tonight. Thank you for driving all the way out from East Side. Yeah. My grandmother and my grandfather were in the first graduating class at Carter High School. And she was a cheerleader, and he was the quarterback. And they fell in love. And they raised their family in Strawberry Plains, and that family land was still there when I was a little girl. And I used to go and chase cows and climb in the mimosa trees. I can still smell those, still amazing. Until they decided they were going to put a ramp off of I-40. And so that was their land, and they ended up moving west. My father's family is more urban. So my father was actually born on Westland Drive, literally in his family's home, and along with his other siblings. And they were different. They weren't country people. They were not as working class as my mother's family. My father's brother became the dean of the dental school at UT, and his sisters were teachers and nurses, all professionals. And my father was a mechanical engineer and worked at Y12 and had one of those top secret jobs where I never got to go to his office and he could never come to school and talk about what he did, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. In my family, there were Republicans and Democrats. And I think probably many of you know this experience being from here. A lot more Republicans than Democrats. My grandfather was a dyed-in-the-wool Republican, and my grandmother was a quite liberal union activist, picketing, yellow dog Democrat. Woo! And so I always said about her that it's the best parts of me came from my grandmother. One of the interesting things about having a family like that is that you learn to listen to different sides. One thing they did have in common was that they really drove home and instilled the importance of voting. They used to say to us, even when we were little kids, somebody died so you could vote. So we grew up with that as an obligation. That was the bare minimum you did. But you should also at least discuss the issues as election times roll around. And they did have heated discussions. I remember them. But guess what? Nobody was ever asked to leave the table. Nobody was ever disenfranchised from the family, and nobody was called un-American. Families are splintering right now over ideas and issues that the leaders are not even trying to resolve. Times have certainly changed since those days, back when the government was mostly white men. There's just a laugh there because it's still mostly white men. But things are changing, and we do absolutely are seeing the People's House change and transform. After I moved to Los Angeles, I ended up attending UCLA, and although I was studying science, I took a lot of courses in the Women's Studies program, and it really informed me on that female perspective of the history of our country. I learned a lot of things about the specific facts, and I also learned about why I felt the way I did, that I had no explanation for as a female. It was an extraordinary opportunity. It's absolutely informed the way I look at the world, and it allows me to show up for disenfranchised folk, for our children, and for each other. And I believe we need more voices of women on the floor, finding ways to resolve differences and creating solutions to both national and international issues. And I want to be that voice for you. I'm running to set Congress on a path for the people, not the lobbyists, not the corporations, but for you, my neighbors. My passion does lie in my desire to create a safe political space where the voices of people are heard, acknowledged, and represented at the highest levels of government, regardless of political party. But Tim Burchett is fanning the flame of division between people, even within his own party. And you need a leader who will fight the extremes of party politics, not join them. A leader who will support victims of domestic violence, not subjugate them. A leader who will trust women to make the best decisions about their lives and their reproductive care, not regulate them. And you need representation from a leader who believes that it's time to really talk about climate change. And of course, you need a leader who knows there's something that can be done when it comes to keeping our kids safe at schools. My campaign is focused on a platform to support working Tennesseans by raising the federal minimum wage. We need to put Tennesseans first, and I will place your priorities above corporate profit and greed. I'm a small business owner, so I consider myself to be fairly fiscally responsible. I want to focus on creating an environment here in East Tennessee where our entrepreneurs thrive. We are known as a region of entrepreneurs and our creators, and we continue to attract new industry into this district, but not for the wrong reasons. We don't want to attract them because we have the cheapest labor, or because we have the least amount of regulation. And that is currently how we are attracting business and industry into our state. We need to start to protect our people and our beautiful natural resources and recognize our good fortune in being here as we share that with people who come and visit and play in East Tennessee. I will work to ensure that your children are safe in their schools and that all of us can feel safe in our public spaces. So many of you wonder every day if today is the last day that you will see your child, your grandchild, or your little neighbor when coming home from a concert or a football game or the mall or the theater. We cannot continue living in constant fear like this. We need a safe America. Moms Demand Action just stated that by the end of February, Americans will have experienced more death by gun violence than any other developed country will in a year. By the end of February, 2 months. As an advocate for quality health care and affordable medications and access to local doctors and hospitals, I will focus not only on improving, but revolutionizing our strained healthcare system. The federal government is already spending 17.8% of its GDP on healthcare. 17.8%. That's a lot. To give you a point of reference, we spend about 3.46% of our GDP on the military. Healthcare is the most expensive expenditure we have in our GDP. And we still have 37 million Americans without insurance and 41 million more that are underinsured. And according to the National Institute of Health, and this was published in The Lancet, so a conservative doctor-run peer-reviewed journal, we could be saving 13% in our national healthcare expenditures if we would just go to a single-payer universal provider. Save money, save money. And the only reason that hasn't happened is because of the strength of the AMA lobbyists and the hospital lobbyists and the insurance companies, because they want to continue to profit off of our disease and our illnesses. Tennesseans are number 1 in medical bankruptcies. That we are the state with the highest number of medical bankruptcies, and we're number 2 in the loss of rural hospitals per capita. They have convinced so many people that universal care is mired in socialism instead of just good fiscal responsibility. We need to change that narrative.
Why not go?
When I was 20 years old, I wasn't married. I was in love. And I got pregnant. And I had an option. I could make a choice. I could make a decision. And I chose to carry that pregnancy to term. That was my choice. And I want to fight for every single one who may find themselves in that position to have that decision belong to them. We all have the right to privacy and to be protected in our relationships with our physicians. And I will tell you that right now we got a huge brain drain happening in Tennessee because of our legislative bills that have made it so that not only do we not have one of the strictest abortion bans in the nation, but in addition to that, we are generating real problems. Over 50% of our counties in this Tennessee state, over 50%, so over half of our counties are maternal deserts. What that means is that you don't have access to an obstetrician. When our obstetricians leave, they take the gynecological part of their practice with them. So now women don't have the ability to get breast exams, pap smears, cancer screenings, because those folks have left. So these are consequences of what is happening to the abortion ban. And they're affecting all women. I also want to talk just for a minute about education. I know that access to education means that you have increased opportunities. And this is why I would support a student loan forgiveness and work to make higher education in technical schools and universities alike. College tuition has more than tripled in the last 6 years. Tripled in the last 6 years. Young people deserve to have opportunities without being financially strapped by student loan debt. You know, having this debt creates a lot of problems economically for young people. Buying a home, starting a family, being able to move. These are issues that keep people in situations based purely on economics. That's not how we want to live our lives as Americans. And of course, climate. This time bomb requires that we bring science to the forefront of the conversation as Tennesseans are experiencing destructive and costly change in the weather, and this is affecting our farmers. A recent study showed findings of forever chemicals in the water. Did you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Follow my social media because we'll try to keep you updated on all this stuff. But that is the source for our drinking water. And forever chemicals means that it's next to impossible for them to be removed from the water supply. And you know how they landed there? Because there's no regulation or accountability for the corporations that use our waterways as dumping grounds. So in closing, no one should be forced to carry a pregnancy. Affordable and available quality health care is a basic human right, and there should not be profit made off of illness and disease. I would also say that it was never the intention of our forefathers for its citizens to have the ability to gain access to weapons that could annihilate children in their classrooms or at the mall or in a concert or a park with a single hold on a trigger. The future of our planet is approaching significant tipping points, and we've got to do something now. There are solutions. Weaning ourselves from fossil fuels and protecting our citizens from toxic chemicals dumped into our water and air by industries that suffer no consequences is critical. Our country was created on the idea that we can have varying solutions to problems that our country faces. And it's in the nature of that construct that we can sit at a table and have a discussion and sometimes come to a compromise. Alexander Hamilton said, and I quote, "Compromise is the key to maintaining a stable government." Alexander Hamilton said that, one of our forefathers. So I will work with Republicans and Democrats and independents to create a just, egalitarian, compassionate, and fruitful government. There has never been a Democrat in this seat elected. There has never been a female in this seat elected. Let's break the cycle of dysfunction. Together on November 5th, we can flip this seat. We can send Tim Burchett home for good. But it's going to take a lot of hours. It's going to take all of you to go and find 10 friends so that they can find 10 friends. This particular campaign is not on the red to blue list. That means we're not, until we say, look over here to the DCCC, they ain't looking. So we have to elevate this campaign. I'm getting phone calls and emails from Republicans saying, hey, I'm a 79-year-old retired white Republican. This is true. White Republican, and I've never voted for a Democrat in my life. Can I volunteer? So that's what we need. Talk to your Republican friends. Say, hey, she'd love to talk to you. I don't have a problem with Republicans. Most of my family's that. And I love them. I don't agree with a lot of what they believe, but I still love them. So today is the day for you to make your commitment toward that win. And that does mean your time and your energy, sharing the word, your vote, of course, and helping us financially. We got a lot of voters to talk to between now and Election Day. And I'm asking you to open your checkbooks, your bank cards, your vaults, and give generously towards this vision that we all share for a better and a brighter future. You can also visit my website at janegeorgetn.com. There's information about issues. We're just building that out. You know, we're in the early stages. We will have volunteers where you guys can go and sign up to volunteer and taking your generous donations. And please share our vision with your neighbors and your friends, because the time is now. It is time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited. It happened. We have something to share with you. Can you guys see who this is? Gloria. Yes. Gloria. Okay. This is going to be live streamed. This is going to be on all of our social media, so you can go back and see it. I'm going to hold this, and I guess those of you in the front row, you got the good seats. Can you guys see this at all?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let's get it started.
Hi, East Tennessee friends. Rep. Gloria Johnson here. I want to say how excited I am that Jane George is running for Congress. Please do everything you can to get behind her and support her. We have a mess as a congressman up there for East Tennessee, and we've got to change that. Jane George will represent the human dignity of every single person in this congressional district. So please get out and do all you can to support her. And Jane, thank you so much for stepping up.
We're gonna make sure she makes it too, right? That's a big one. Okay, thank you. Enjoy yourselves. Please feel free to grab more snacks. I'd love to talk to each and every one of you, so make sure you come by and say hello. Thank you for being here. We do have one more thing. We'd like for everybody. Has everybody got their champagne?
No.
Okay, well, we've got champagne coming around. We want to make sure everybody gets champagne. Champagnes are coming. All right, so while the champagne is coming around, I want to do some quick thank yous. I want to, first of all, thank those who sponsored and hosted our event tonight. We have a group of amazing group of sponsors. We have Katie and Greg McKay, Sherry and Mark Honeycutt, Mark Best, Sylvia Woods, Linda and John Haynes, Julie Mitchell, Steve Drevick, Paul Foley, Loy Waldrop, Daniel Filler. And then we have our sponsors tonight, our hosts tonight, which are Drew Katzman, Nancy Heathcote, Nancy Nilka, and Dale Dickey. And obviously, we could not have gotten this far without this amazing staff we have. And I'm sure you've seen them running around, but we've got extraordinary people supporting us. Brock McPherson, Tucker Mountain, Yvonne Reel, and the guy who really put this evening together, Jeff Bell. He's our events coordinator. He's the guy you talk to if you want to have a party. And then our treasurer, Sylvia Woods. Thank you, Sylvia. She's amazing. We're so lucky to have her on our team. And of course, our campaign manager, Kate Craig. Incredible group of people. We'll be growing and expanding, but we want to thank you all. And absolutely big thanks to Martha Boggs for having us here at the historic Bistro tonight. We are so fortunate to be able to celebrate and get this party started here. So enjoy, have a good time, talk to each other, and give us money. Thank you. We are going to have a toast, though. And when everybody gets their champagne, I'll come back to the mic when everybody's got their champagne.
Hi, I have a question for you. Yes. Hi. I'm Ann Barber. How do you do? I've been vaccinated. Okay.